Welcome to part 4 in the series of the case of Alexis Pickett, a case out of Wisconsin. Now let's get back to right where we left off in the criminal complaint. If you are seeing this video for the first time, please make sure that you go to my page and start with part 1. We are now moving in this document to the location of Matt's phone on November 12th and 13th of 2025. Investigators Mancuso and Rosenau met with Matt Sierra on November 13th, 2025, and seized his phone. Matt provided the passcode to the phone without issue. In the execution of a search warrant, a forensic extraction was conducted on the phone, which investigator Rosenau reviewed and found the following. This is information from Matt's phone. Matt had descendant Alexis labeled, quote, juvenile one's mom in his phone. It shows a phone number, and they match it to Alexis. At 8:51 p.m., Alexis had said to Matt, quote, well, I'm head to bed here in about 30 minutes. Got a few things to do in the morning. Feel free to come in at night tonight and slide your... I don't know if I can say that. Okay, slide your hot dog. Okay, let's say that. In me while I'm sleeping if you get the chance. LOL. This was the last message that was sent and received on Matt's phone on November 12th, 2025. From 11:44 p.m. to 3:33 a.m., Matt's phone shows that it was at his residence on Main Street in Genoa. Please note that between 11:28 p.m. on November 12th and 3:33 a.m. on November 13th, there was no activity on Matt's phone indicating actual usage. We're now moving to the part in this complaint of the interview on November 13th, 2025. During the November 13th, 2025 interview, investigator Mancuso had Matt walk him through the timeline regarding when he last saw Alexis and what their relationship was. Matt confirmed that they share a child, OM, and that their relationship is, quote, on again, off again, having recently started back up, quote, last week. Matthew said that he went over to Alexis's apartment early on November 12th, around 11 o'clock, which he confirmed to be 11 a.m. Matthew said he then saw Alexis again at 4:05 p.m. Matthew said that Alexis again asked him if he wanted to come over again at night. Matthew said he did not respond because he was at home and he didn't know what was going on. Matthew again confirmed that the first time he went over to Alexis's the day prior was at approximately 11 a.m. Matthew said that he stayed there until about 12:30 p.m. Matthew said that Alexis had an appointment and he had to get back for class because he's a professor. Matthew said that he told Alexis if he got done early with class, he could come back over and watch TV. Matthew said that Alexis told him that was cool and he went over there from 4 until 5 p.m. Matthew said then he went home and they were messaging each other back and forth, and she said he could come over again. This was around 8 or 9 p.m. And just a side note, a little reminder here, Matthew is married and has a wife at home. Investigator Mancuso asked Matthew how long he was there the last time he had been there, and he said either 12 until 1 or 12 until 2. Investigator Mancuso also asked Matthew if anybody else was there when he was hanging out with Alexis throughout yesterday and into early today, and he said no. He said it was just her and her animals. Matthew described the animals as being a dog and a cat. Investigator Mancuso asked Matthew if he thought he left between 1 and 2, and he said somewhere around there. I then asked where he went after he left, and he said that he went down a few blocks because sometimes she texts him back. Matthew said that he waited a little bit and then left and went home to Genoa. Investigator Rosenau asked Matthew if there was any truth to Alexis being pregnant, and he responded by saying that he and Alexis had a paternity test, and this test was done recently. Investigator Mancuso asked Matthew if he thought the kid was his, and he said yes, and he advised they found out the kid was his. Investigator Mancuso then asked a clarifying question, how Matthew just started being intimate with Alexis, and now she was already pregnant, and he said this was back from the summer. Investigator Mancuso asked Matthew when he found out that Alexis was pregnant, and he said in August. Matthew said Alexis was 3 or 4 months pregnant. Matthew told investigator Rosenau that Alexis had a gender reveal party, but he wasn't invited, and he thought it was a boy. Investigator Mancuso asked you when he found out Alexis was pregnant, and he found out when it was emailed to them. Matthew said he thought this was in September. Matthew confirmed that he had been intimate with Alexis earlier in the summer, and there had been a pause from August until as recent as last week, and when they were intimate again. Matthew said that there was a point where they barely even texted each other, and they only talked when it was in reference to OM, their child. We're now moving on into statements from ES. Investigator Mancuso asked ES, who is the defendant's wife. So again, this is Matthew Sierra's wife, and asked ES if Matthew made any statements about ending the relationship with Alexis, and she said she was pretty sure he wasn't going to do this again after OM was born. ES talked about how Matthew had sworn to her he wasn't going to do this again, but he did. ES then said that Matthew probably came clean about having sex with Alexis again in September. I asked ES if Matthew has told her about the relationship with Alexis in the last couple of weeks, and she said no. After Investigator Mancuso took pictures of the phone messages, he asked ES if she left her residence last night, and she stated that she didn't. He then asked specifically if Matthew told her that he had left last night, and she said she didn't think so. ES said unless she dreamed it, she was sleeping. ES said again that she went to sleep around 12, got up around 4 to reset the speaker, and then said she didn't think so. He then asked if she confronted him last night, and she shook her head in a no manner. He then told ES that Matthew told me she had confronted him last night when he got home, and she advised she didn't remember this. Investigator Mancuso asked ES if, when she spoke with Matthew on his work phone, if Matthew told her there was a deceased person in Alexis's apartment, and she said no. He only said that there was a fire. He asked ES if Matthew told her that he had been there last night, and she said no. ES said from what she knows, when he had cheated in the past, it was during the daytime, in the summer, and when she was at work. Investigator Mancuso also asked ES if this was news to her that Matthew had left last night, and she said that it was. He then told ES he was confused in my head because Matthew told me she had confronted him when he got home around 2 in the morning. ES then said, quote, I wouldn't have been awake. Investigator Mancuso then informed ES to correct him if he was wrong, but if Matthew had been with a person that she despised and wanted to question him about this, she would remember this conversation. Would that be correct? She shook her head in a yes manner. He then asked ES if she remembered this conversation, and she shook her head in a no manner. ES said she wouldn't have confronted Matthew in the middle of the night because AS, who is their child, would have been right there. ES said that AS has already heard too many of their arguments and she wouldn't want to traumatize him. ES said that she would wait until AS was at school. Investigator Mancuso asked ES if she smelled any accelerants on Matthew this morning, and she said no. ES said that Matthew had already taken a shower before that he came upstairs. ES said that this is normal because he has to go to work. ES confirmed with Investigator Mancuso that she had no idea that Matthew had left last night, and she did not confront him. ES also confirmed the last time she was aware that Matthew and AP had intercourse was in July. ES said to her knowledge there had been nothing since July in reference to Matthew and Alexis. The next part of this document goes into inconsistencies in Matt Sierra's statement. Investigator Mancuso reviewed footage of the first interview he conducted with Matt Sierra on November 13, 2025 at 9:25 a.m. and noted the following. At 9:25:51 seconds, Matthew is asked to step out of the classroom by Investigator Rosenau and immediately starts talking about how Joe and Katina told him there was a fire and it happened at Alexis. This was without provocation. So when we stepped out of the classroom means they showed up at his place of work as he's a professor at a university and had him step out there. At 9:25:06 a.m., Matthew said that he looked back in his messages and said that OM was at Linnea's, so he knew OM wasn't there, talking about their child. At 9:26:23 seconds, Matthew said that Katina called him this morning and Katina's friend saw fire coming out of the house and he hasn't heard anything since. Matthew said he's tried calling and texting and he hasn't gotten any responses. A review of messages sent between Matt and ES on ES's phone shows Matt sent ES a text at 8:05 a.m. I'm going to have to end part 4 here. I will see you over in part 5. Remember to like and share.